Hey everybody, welcome to the Spoilercast spoiler of Loki, the Dark Realms. What the fuck was it? I don't remember this movie.
It's literally just called Thor.
It's Thor, but Loki's in it.
Loki is in it, but it's just called Thor. This one is just called Thor. The second one is Dark Worlds.
Okay, let me start over. Welcome to the Spoilercast about this is Thor, the first Thor movie in the MCU where he lands in New Mexico and, has to learn to not be a fucking jock, I guess, is the whole point of this movie. Yeah. We watched that yesterday and together. It was cute. I think that's how we're going to have to do it now. Because it's just adorable when, you come over and we're just watching it together.
Except your fiance was there, ruining our sexual tension.
Yeah, well,
just kidding.
She showed up like part way through, so I mean, we had our moment,
Yeah, that's true. What'd you think of the movie? What'd you think of it? Yeah,
it's fine. It doesn't do anything. It does nothing. There's no reason for this movie except to introduce a character.
Yeah, it's bizarre, really, because it's the first time we see Thor, but we hardly see Thor being Thor in this movie.
He's just a regular goon.
I think that's the weirdest part of this movie is you see Thor at the beginning. There's that neat little scene where he goes and fights the frost giants, and you get to see him use his powers. He spits up rocks with his hammer and stuff. But then, Big Daddy Odin is like, hey, you shouldn't have started this war with these frost giants. You are no longer Thor. And he goes to Earth, and now he has no powers. He's super strong just because he's buff, but that's it. He has no powers or anything. So it's just sort of I wish I could have seen more Thor being Thor, but
the issue I had with this movie is I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a comedy or a sitcom, what is
a rom-com?
A rom-com. I don't it was funny. I have to admit, some of it was funny. There was one joke that landed pretty good with me, but I don't remember what it was now. So it's not gonna stick. Must not have been that funny. But yeah, I laughed at some points because this is the first time I've ever seen the movie. It's fine. I don't know. It's not a good one. And I see why people say that. And I was going into it knowing it's not a good one, expecting my expectations to be a little bit higher than what everybody says. It's everybody's right. This one's kind of meh.
I had seen it before, when it came out, but I didn't remember anything about it. I remembered he goes to New Mexico and meets Natalie Portman and it's sort of a strange movie because Natalie Portman is an astrologist or something. I don't really even know. She's some sort of scientist. And they find Thor in New Mexico, and then they have him just hang out with them to figure out what's going on, I guess.
Yeah.
And you're right. I don't know what this movie was because all this stuff with him and Natalie Portman and the other two, Darcy and the old guy, was fun rom-com almost, between him and Natalie Portman, cute little love thing. But then it goes back to Asgard where it's super serious, but also not, because then his buddies, who I don't remember any of their names, the bigger dude is a funny guy who likes to eat all the time. But then
he's so funny.
But then there's Heimdall, who's awesome, who I love Heimdall, but he's super serious. Odin, super serious. Loki, super serious. And it just felt like a movie that didn't know quite what it wanted to be.
Yeah, the tone in this movie is very kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It's bright and sunny, right? And then it's raining in the next scene, and you're like, what is happening in this movie? And he's beating up people, but then he's against doctors at the beginning, right? So he's at doctors in the beginning and he doesn't have any powers and they restrain him, right? And they inject him. But when he's like fighting like hired fucking mercenaries,
soldiers, yeah.
Yeah, soldiers that are like super specialists for Agent Coulson. He just whoops their ass, and it's like, what? Like, how does this happen? Also, I remembered the joke because of Coulson.
Yeah,
where he's like son of Cole, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was pretty fucking funny. Yeah. That made me smile a little bit.
This movie felt like a setup movie for sure. Like, we need to introduce this character. This is like, and even from the post credits where they're like, Thor will return in the Avengers, which was probably a huge pop in the theaters, right? Like, everyone was probably like, oh shit. But this movie was like, we need to make this movie so we don't have to introduce him in the Avengers.
In the Avengers, absolutely. Yeah, we have to give him some sort of character.
So this is Thor. And like, I will say, like, perfectly casted movie. Like, I think Chris Hemsworth as Thor is great. I think Tom Hiddleston as Loki is fantastic. I think, Anthony Hopkins as Odin is wonderful. Like, just a great cast. And like, even at one point at the end of the movie where Loki is like shooting some dialogue where he's like, oh, you want to go back because of her? And it's like really horrible dialogue, but Tom Hiddleston is just like giving it his all, dude.
Yeah, the part where they're like fighting on the bridge.
He's like got tears coming out. He's like, you want to go back because of her? And the dialogue's horrible, but he's just bringing it. Like,
he's like, his acting is top notch and you can tell, but the script is just like, it doesn't meet him. The script just does not meet him. And you're like, what the fuck? But good on him for sure.
I really feel like at this point Marvel was trying to find out, like, what are we, and really this movie is like, man, what are we,
what the fuck are we? Well, I can tell you that what the fuck they are is an Avengers setup. That's pretty much what it seems to be going on, because not necessarily Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1 felt kind of alone, it felt like a standalone, whereas Iron Man 2 felt like they were setting it up, just like they brought in all these characters and they're like, okay, we're preparing for something big, blah blah blah. And then this movie is also just kind of like, yeah, and there's this character.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, cool, I guess.
Coulson really is like the backbone of the MCU at this point, though. He's kind of the through line between all of them. Except for maybe Hulk. But like, he's kind of the backbone of these movies where he just kind of shows up in all of them. And he's like, he's kind of, he's a bit of an antagonist in this movie against Natalie Portman, Jane. Because he's like taking her research and stuff, but ultimately he's trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't realize that Thor is Thor.
Right. He's doing the Avengers initiative, so he's just kind of trying to figure out what the hell is going on, if it's like a threat, an alien threat that's coming, and who needs to be there and stuff. So for all he knows, like, this chick just kind of stumbled upon something. And he's like, well, we got to take it because it's more important than like a freelance scientist doing their own research and having no money to back up like an army or, a plan. They're just interested in what they're doing,
How'd you feel about the Hawkeye thing?
That's right. Hawkeye was in this movie.
Yeah.
I felt like they could have done more with him, honestly.
I do too, but at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, it's it was very a nice much little tease.
It was very much like in Iron Man 2, where Coulson hands Tony the shield, and he puts the shield underneath his like machine, his Hadron Collider, but it's a little bit more extended, because there's a character there, and he actually has dialogue. So it's like, oh, okay, Hawkeye's here too. But all he does is go up into an elevator. Why it's there, I don't fucking know. But he goes up into an elevator and just aims at Thor, and for some reason he doesn't shoot him
because they didn't need.
Could you imagine?
Because they're like, I want to see what happens, and I did like that moment where they're like, let him try to pick it up. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're Coulson and all of your guys just got taken out, and this guy's just here looking at this thing, and he's like, well, maybe he can lift this thing up. Maybe it does belong to him. But
I thought it would have been cool though if like he tried to pull it out, and then he couldn't get it out, and then Hawkeye shoots the arrow and like some sort of net or like some sort of like modified arrow to show like, hey, this guy's like a cool arrow man.
It is Hawkeye. Yeah, it's not just an arrow guy. Like when so they're like, get the backup or whatever. Get a guy on the hill with a gun, and he like looks at a gun like an
and he's like, no,
an M40 or something, and he's like, and the camera pans up and there's a crossbow, or not a crossbow,
bow,
a compound bow. And he takes that and like, that is the dumbest move ever. Who would do that? And
Hawkeye would.
And then he goes up and that's Hawkeye. Hawkeye, of course, would do that.
But like, if you're a comic book fan at this point, they're like, oh my God, it's Hawkeye. That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, for sure. But I wish there was like, he shoots him, you know, or like does something with him, or.
And I understand why they did it, because obviously this whole thing, like from Iron Man 2, it seems they're building to the Avengers, and like they're like, well, we don't want to introduce this character in the Avengers, much like Natasha, where it's like, let's just introduce them in these movies. So we'll introduce Natasha in Iron Man 2 and Hawkeye in Thor. But Natasha got so much better of an introduction than Hawkeye did.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because like she got so much. She was like an integral part of she has like a whole fight scene in Iron Man 2, and Hawkeye just fucking has a couple of lines where he's like, I'm on this guy's side, you know? And it's like, what?
And I feel like Hawkeye doesn't even really get a fight scene until Avengers Endgame.
Well, no, that's not.
I feel like he doesn't do shit until Endgame.
He's got the fight with Ultron.
I guess I don't really remember. I don't really remember.
We'll get there.
I feel like he just doesn't do much in this series of movies.
Well, I mean, he did have that Ronin. Well, the Ronin was an Endgame, wasn't it? When he turned Ronin.
Yeah, that's an Endgame.
Yeah.
So I said this yesterday when we were talking after we watched it. I think what would have helped this movie a lot for me, as far as like just the motivations of Thor at the end, because Thor is like all upset because he can't see his girlfriend Jane anymore, and at the end of the movie, he's like,
"Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say."
Because he had to destroy the bridge,
right? So
Loki couldn't, destroy all of the frost giants, and then Loki falls to his death. And then he's like, I want to go find Jane, and Heimdall's like, there's other ways. And then and then it cuts to Jane, and Jane's like, I need to find my big sexy alien man.
My alien man, yeah.
My big buff alien man. And
she hasn't stopped looking for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the way this movie is set up, it makes it feel like he's been there for maybe like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And tops. It's like, is that enough time for you to like really fall in love with someone? I feel like the movie would have been better, and I said this yesterday to you, if they placed it out where it's like 6 months later, and it's like he's been with these people for like 6 months to a year. So then you buy that he has built a relationship with these people. He's truly learned his lesson by being on Earth, being humbled by being a mortal man, and how to address a situation by not fighting but talking. And like that would have hit a lot more if time had passed.
They didn't have to change any scene either in order to do this. Just at the bottom, when a scene switches, it's just like 3 weeks later, you know, and then the next scene happens a month later, you know. But it just feels so quick. It's just like bam, bam, bam. And I do have to say, the first 15 minutes of this movie are nothing. There is nothing going on in the first 15 minutes of this movie.
It's a lot of like them trying to build this world, of like them trying to tell you like, hey, this is Asgard. This is Thor's buddies who we don't care about. This is Thor's brother who...
Their war.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like Loki doesn't quite hit the same for me in this movie as he does in other movies.
No, I mean, he does a great job.
He's a good actor, and he's the perfect guy for it. But like his character and his motivations, like because he's the god of mischief, right? It doesn't really feel like it in this movie until he finds out he's a frost giant. But there are some like little throwaway dialogues where like Thor's like, I should have known you done this. But then when they interacted before he ended up doing that, Thor acts like Loki's never done anything bad to him. So it's a little confusing. Yeah. It's a little confusing.
Well, Thor in the beginning seems like a real meathead. Like he just seems like a big ass jock who's just like, let's go fight some people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, drinking and partying and stuff like that. And Loki's just like, all right, dude. He's just like that weird like nerd who's in the corner, and his brother's just a fucking jock on the football team, and he's like the computer scientist in the back, just kind of like minding his own business. And then by the end of the movie, he's that guy. And by the end of the movie, Thor's just like a normal person. He grew out of high school, you know. And
he's still kind of dumb, but
he's college jock now, instead of like he's got classes to attend, and he actually has to pass those classes in order to finish school. But and then I feel like that's where he's like, yeah, it makes sense that my brother would do this,
yeah.
And they didn't address if Loki was like known to be an ice giant throughout his whole family, or if it's just his dad that knows.
They sure made it seem like no one knew except for like Odin and Frigga,
and maybe Heimdall.
Because Heimdall is like he's a peeping Tom. He kind of looks at everything. Like you're taking a shit, Heimdall's watching you, dude.
But then again, like Loki is an ice giant, and they say that like Heimdall can't see ice giants or something like that. That he can shroud himself.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if that's like.
But I don't think Loki
thing.
I don't think Loki fully put that together until he found out he was a frost giant.
Right.
Like that's probably something they know about frost giants.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, that means that I can probably do this too.
I can do it too. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was a pretty good introduction to show that he was one of them.
Yeah.
Where it like grabs his arm and it turns blue. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then him and the other frost giant are just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. His plan is whack though. Cause he's like, hey, come kill Odin, because I don't want to do it, because I don't, they won't like me if I kill the king. So he has them come there. They're about to kill Odin, and then he stops them from killing Odin.
Right, because then now he's the savior, and their leader's dead.
So I guess like the idea is that he wants Odin to respect him.
Well, for sure. By the end of the movie, when he like falls, and he's like, "I did it for you." And his dad's just like, nah, you didn't.
But like Loki could have just killed him. But I guess it's his dad, and he didn't want to do that. I don't know. Yeah. It's to show that Loki does have a bit of a heart, I guess. I don't know.
See, at the end of the movie, he has the motivation when he falls into the void. He's just like, I did it for you. Like I did it. We're all good now. He did it for his dad. He nearly killed his dad for his dad, if that makes sense. He's like, now we don't have to deal with those ice giants anymore.
Yeah. Was that ice giant his dad, Laufin?
Yeah.
But he just kills him, and he doesn't. Yeah.
Nothing. No feelings. No feelings whatsoever.
Yeah, he doesn't mention it. They don't talk to each other about it. It's never really fully addressed.
I feel like the second time that he goes there, he should have been just like, "You're my dad, by the way."
Yeah, they could have had some like nice, but maybe they're just like, we don't have time for that. We gotta.
I think it could have. I think it could have ended different if he's like, "Hey, I'm your son."
They could have done a better job.
There shouldn't be any hard relationships between the ice giants, and
they could have made us sympathize with Loki a bit better. If they had a scene like that where he's like, "You're my dad," and like, this is pretty fucked up, huh? I think we all would have sympathized with Loki a bit more. But all I got was like, Loki was adopted and seemed to have been taken care of pretty fucking well and treated pretty good. They did lie to him about not being a frost giant, but ultimately they seem like pretty decent people to him.
Decent people. Well, other than like being just like his Odin just being a complete dick sometimes.
Yeah,
it seems like a hard dad.
It does seem like Odin in his old age has really chilled out, and he's trying to teach Thor the lessons of like the past mistakes that he made, which we get more of in the future movies. Mm-hmm. So that's something like in retrospect I can look back on and be like, I understand why Odin is teaching this lesson, because he learned this lesson himself with his daughter. I can't remember her name.
With Hela.
Yeah, with Hela.
Yeah.
Should we pull up the list?
Oh shit, yeah. Good fucking call. I gotta do that right quick.
So right now, the list is our MCU ranking list. The Lonercast ranking is Loki at number 1, Iron Man at number 2, WandaVision at number 3, Black Widow at number 4, Falcon Winter Soldier at number 5, Iron Man 2 at number 6, and Incredible Hulk at number 7.
Do you want me to number these?
Yeah, that might make it a little easier. And I want to read them out every time, just so if we have like audio listeners, which we don't, but just in case.
I gotcha. I mean, it is possible. 4,
in the future. That is the thing about these spoiler casts, is like people can come back to these in the future, and if they decide to rewatch the MCU movies and they're like, I wonder what those 2 idiots on Twitch have to say, you know.
You know what's gonna suck about this is when I do this, it's just gonna push there's a way to do it that I'll figure it out. For now, it works for now.
This is easy for me, and it's gonna be easy for the numbering, because I think this is dead last.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No question. Even the Incredible Hulk is better than this movie.
Yeah, because at least I thought there were some things in Hulk that were like kind of interesting, but like Thor, I thought there wasn't even like anything that was. There was too much world building almost, and not enough on like what's going on with Thor. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I did like the post-credit scene. It got me hyped for Avengers.
The post-credit scene was probably the best part of the whole thing, honestly.
But I think back to like what I'm trying to think back to like retrospectively, and like let's say I hadn't seen all of the movies already.
Right.
And like I'm like, "Oh yeah, a cube." You know?
Yeah.
But like now we know that's the soul gem or whatever.
That's the soul stone, yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool now, but like I wonder back then if people were like, cool.
It's not the soul stone. It's a different one.
The mind stone? No, it's not the mind stone. The mind stone's the yellow one.
Loki's stone. Marvel. I guess it is the mind stone. Yeah. It's the mind stone.
Oh, it is the mind stone. Okay.
Yeah. Because the soul stone's in that like shitty thing that what's her face had to die for.
My man looks like Kurt Cobain if he starred in The Matrix.
I can see it.
I'll take that. I'll take it. You know,
Kurt Cobain in The Matrix. Yeah,
I accept.
I dig it. That's a good one.
I need to get those Kurt Cobain glasses. The
white ones.
The like oval big ones.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about Thor.
It's the worst one so far.
Yep, it's the worst movie so far. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out all the other ones. Bye.
Yeah, we'll be doing this all the time. Bye.
Like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. You know, do that. If you're on YouTube, make sure you check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lonercast.